Trying to get this figured out. Remember I opened Bioshock to kind of close, which would make it small. Here we go. Remember I opened Bioshock to kind of close. There we go. Make it small. Things are good. Yeah, it works. Okay. I remember that. It's new. Not sure what to use it. Yeah, it works. It's new. Not sure what to use it. Welcome to this new welcome. Guided tour of ideas. Reduce colors. Or rework. I feel like I should play. Welcome to this new welcome. Guided tour of ideas. Alright, let's start a new game. Let's see. Jeez. First time I played this, I must have been 14 or 15. It's been 6 years. Just do medium. I don't feel like really fighting the game. This look a little bit better.
They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
I think I'm kind of putting on my rose-tinted glasses for this. Man, I love the cold open like that. It'll make you play through a tutorial or anything and shove you right in there. Oh, there we go. Immediately they give you kind of creepy vibe. I mean, you walk into a tower, middle of the ocean, and what is there? Just like bronze stick. Immediately they give you kind of creepy vibe. I mean, you walk into a I can't even tell where that's coming from. So there it is. I had Twitch open in a different window of Chrome, completely different desktop. Now we're good. Now we're good. That's it. I even decided to play with controller for more. Maximum stuff. What is it? Understand? What is the brass balls run? I don't think I've heard of that.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers.
Would be that annoying guy that
Instead,
all the lines.
I chose something different.
As
I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
Wow. They frame that so nicely.
Where the artist would not fear censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
First look at the big daddy, right? That's a Rosie. I don't know what that means. It'd be interesting to come into Bioshock not knowing that it's like sort of a horror game. Considering how like cool the city of Rapture looks from the outside before now. Just like this various thing. I remember when this was playing this in the dark room with a friend. Panting.
Would you kindly pick up that shortwave radio? I don't know how you survived that plane crash, but I've never been one to question Providence.
So they make it so you can hear them, but you can't even see them. I don't even think they're here in the beginning.
Just a bit border. How do you like that, mister? Now, would you kindly find a crowbar or something? Bloody splicer sealed Johnny in before they... Goddamn splicers.
I'm not used to X being my
Fresh night.
jump
Smile
button.
and
Like
be
the
yourself.
use button.
Like this.
It's kind of telegraphed, but yeah, I definitely.
I found her that way. Don't run!
My daddy's smarter than Einstein. Stronger than Hercules. And like a fire with a snap on his finger. Are you as good as my daddy, mister? Not if you don't visit the gatherer's garden. Our daddy's just like at the garden.
Well, I know some people have been jokingly calling this Bioshock retextured, and that appears to be fairly accurate, but it's definitely cool seeing. Just a little. So what? They lock you in a room. You can explore, and there's some interesting things. The only thing you can actually really do interact with this huge glowing red creature of this is a cutscene, you can tell because there's bars now.
Steady now. Your genetic code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
I don't know why he jumps off the balcony. It seems like he leans at it. And just
This little fish looks like he just had his cherry popped. Wonder if he's still got some Adam on him. Let's buck. Weak! You're a weak chopper. This little fish ain't worth towing it with no big daddy. Yellow! Always have been. You'll be no better off with a metal daddy, little fish. See you floating, right?
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel. I can see light coming from his belly. Wait a minute, he's still breathing. It's all right. I know he'll be an angel soon.
Little sisters are debatably. I don't know if I would even say it's debatable. The previous part.
You alright, boyo? First time plasma's a real kick from a mule. But there's nothing like a fistful of lightning now, is there?
Okay, so they say it's like a kick from a mule, and if I recall, there's a tonic in Bioshock Infinite called Mule Kick. I wonder if that's a reference or probably just. Also interesting is the dialogue from the Gatherer's Garden, which says something about my takes, and notes that he can start a fire with his axe, even though it's the electrical plasmid. surprised the gold so deep. So they use that sequence to lock you off the path of progression. Oh.
Splicer! Give him the combo. Zap him, then whack him. 1-2 punch. Remember, the 1-2 punch.
Come on!
Oh, wow. There we go. And then you'll use the 1-2 punch for literally the rest. Maybe I shouldn't just smash. Can you not run?
Don't fucking judge me! Come back! Please!
Yeah, unfortunately it doesn't sound like they updated any of the sound.
Tell Ryan I'm sorry.
Ah! I was just getting warmed up! You gotta be rich down here to meet a lady. They don't care how nice you are.
I enjoyed just the idea that you're like immediately thrust into, you know, the world of Rapture. You know who this guy is. And then immediately you're just like forced to kill him.
Listen, I've got a family. I need to get them out of here. But the splicers have cut me off from them. If you can reach them in Neptune's bounty, then maybe, just maybe. I know you must feel like the unluckiest man in the world right now. But you are the only hope I'll ever see my wife and child again. Go to Neptune's bounty. Find my family, please.
Ah, my favorite era.
There to sing this song. Hush now. Mom's gone. And Daddy too. Wait. This is happening before and none. Why aren't you here? Why is it today and not then when you were warm and sweet? Why can't Mommy hold you to her breast and feel your teeth? Oh, no. No, 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 no.
Baby, okay? Oh.
Baby and me! Baby and me! Oh.
It's not a baby at all.
Plasma's changed everything. They destroyed our bodies, our minds. We couldn't handle it. Best friends butchering one another. Babies strangled in cribs. The whole city went to hell.
Oh. Okay, just actually. Okay. Okay, yeah. The fall of Rapture took place in 1959, around New Year's.
I'll do what I want. It's my Adam. I earned
Spliced up. I just spliced this. But he's gonna want this smashed. Open the damn door!
Hey, Brenda, you care to tell me why you had a hole in the wall the size of Plymouth Rock coming out of your crapper going on 3 weeks now? Nah, I I ain't saying I'm Shakespeare, trying to run a respectable theater. I got working folk coming in from Port Neptune trying to catch a little delusion. And all they can think about is the stink coming out of your shitter. Get it fixed.
No, that's not a good look for him.
Last time.
And then... Ah, this is what I was talking about. That's the waterworks.
You open up!
I'm gonna look around a little bit right now. Oh, okay. Apparently that was the waterfall.
Another New Year's, another night alone. I'm out and you're stuck in Festus, working. Huh. Imagine my surprise. Oh, I guess I'll have another drink. Here's a toast to Diane McClintock, silliest girl in Rapture. Silly enough to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. Silly. What happened? I'm bleeding. Oh God. What's happening?
Little snapshot of Fall of Rapture. Oh, that's resting.
Open up!
Back up. Well,
Last time.
that's exciting.
Brenda! Give me my Adam! He's running, Brenda!
Charlie! Charlie, where you going? Nah, Charlie! Don't make it double!
Sorry. Didn't mean to hurt Charlie. Come on, man. That looks like he's going to do a lot worse.
The money, and the money.
It's like I want couldn't remember how to use the
If you spot a splicer in the water, hit him with the electrobolt.
nice. Toaster in the tub. Gross. Got a nice little bandstand. Got cigarettes. I should pick up smoking. I mean, if I want to look out. That's what I'm getting. Whoa. Got some kind of magnet. Oh boy. Strings.
Careful now. Would you kindly lower that weapon for a minute?
Oh, okay. Alright. That's amazing, see?
You think that's a child down there? Don't be fooled. She's a little sister now. Somebody went and turned a sweet baby girl into a monster. Whatever you thought about right and wrong on the surface, well, that don't count for much down in Rapture. Those little sisters, they carry Adam, the genetic material that keeps the wheels of Rapture turning. Everybody wants it, everybody needs it.
First time I played this game too, I was probably like, that was probably the most intense thing I had ever seen. Here, let's me save. I didn't know it was gonna take me completely out of it. Oh, hey. Let's play it.
Hey, I'm Jeff Keighley here in Boston to go behind the scenes to hear some untold stories about the making of Bioshock with Ken Levine and Sean Robertson.
I forgot they added this.
Let's talk a bit about the theme and setting of Bioshock, Rapture. I think a lot of people, when they played the game for the first time, Ken, they wondered, how did you even dream up this place? And I know you said publicly before that part of the reason you sort of, what led you to Rapture was this idea of fully simulating a place. Tell us about that sort of idea and the frustrations you had with other games where you sort of hit a bound.
What does that mean?
I think our philosophy was always to do what we were doing 100% rather than try to do something bigger and do it 50% or 40%. So one of the ideas of, and this sort of came from System Shock 2 as well, where you focus on an area that you can really bring to life and you kind of eliminate the questions of, well, why can't I go over the bridge to New Jersey? So we were able to really make a place, I think, that felt believable and real, even though in actuality it was really quite limited. But we just sort of dressed it with all these buildings outside that were all, basically glorified fakes. We let the story drive what we needed to show rather than some kind of like predetermined map which we sat down, which is a little different than like System Shock 2, where we actually mapped a spaceship out deck by deck.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the philosophy felt a little different there, because you want to feel like a real spaceship that was sort of stacked on top of each other. But Rapture was free to sprawl across the ocean floor.
Although you guys originally, John, were talking about doing this game on a sort of spaceship again, right?
Yeah, when we first started talking about what the spiritual successor to System Shock 2 was going to be, Spaceship came up, but again, we wanted a limited environment. We didn't necessarily want to do Spaceship again. And our first actual exploration of this space was underwater, but ultimately ended up looking like a spaceship. It just happened to have a couple of seaweed fronds outside. And that started to push us towards what artistic statement that we wanted to make this look different, and what rules we were going to set for the world. How at every turn we were going to try to remind the player that they were in fact underwater and that this wasn't a spaceship.
And how, like, underwater, we obviously know you did underwater, then sitting in the sky, like, where did you come with the idea of, like, doing this underwater?
I think there was probably a conversation. It's like, well, what kind of places could be cut off from other places?
Yeah.
Like, well, spaceship, summer camp, any island notion, right? Something that's cut off from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So you never felt like you should be able to go over that bridge to New Jersey.
I don't want to apply some deep and meaningful conversation. I think it was one of those ideas that you just kind of say, and then everybody, that sounds cool. Let's try that. Let's go for it.
And I think it lended itself to having very nice views out the window without having to build an insane amount of unique assets.
Right.
By today's standards, we still were a small team back then. And there's an expectation that because you're underwater, the view distances are going to be short, so you can really kind of fade out into the fog at a short distance and not have the expectation that, why can't I see forever? So there's a lot of limitations in a good way that we put on ourselves by being underwater, as opposed to like if you're on a cruise ship, then you'd expect to see across the water and we'd have to deal with that. Same thing with an island.
Or
and
on
you
a
have
city
outdoor
in the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was a lot more complicated, yeah.
So you came up with the idea of let's do this underwater, let's do this sort of isolated place. Then you had to answer the question of, why would someone build this? Is that sort of how it worked, sort of order of operations? You then had to come up with a story to explain?
Yeah, I think we wanted a very believable reason why they'd be there. And sort of the necessary isolation of the place sort of led to, well, what kind of person would want to do this? And I wasn't even particularly aware of the sort of political implications of what I was reading, but I've been reading, I read The Fountainhead.
Right.
By Ayn Rand, and I mostly thought it was an interesting story. Like, I didn't realize that people were sort of basing their sort of political lives around it, because I wasn't that tuned in to that stuff at that point. And so, but I love the dialogue and the kind of speechifying in it, because you can see a video game character speaking with that kind of certainty and that kind of confident philosophy. It just seemed like a natural kind of thing to apply to this place. And so it just sort of all came together as a sort of who is the guy who would do this? Well, that character. It was sort of this amalgamation of characters from Ayn Rand's books and Ayn Rand herself. This sort of idealistic person who says, well, the only way to do this is to separate from the rest of the world. Right. And that led to Andrew Ryan.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone.
We knew from a technical standpoint that we wanted isolation. We also knew to sell it, we needed a compelling storyline, a backstory that why would this place exist? Otherwise, how are we going to make Rapture feel like it's lived in if we don't have the reason for it to be there? So once we decided on the underwater location and then the closed off spaces, that objectivist story kind of came in and made the art stronger and made the level design stronger, because we could feed back into that loop.
And I think that's why we had to have sort of Andrew Ryan's pitch right at the beginning of the game. We wanted people to understand why somebody would go there. And so he makes this very personal one-to-one pitch to the gamer, but also that was the pitch he'd make to people, which was, there's a place that you can be free of all these things, where you can not be sort of put upon by the government and not be afraid of war and not be afraid of all these other things that will plague you on the surface. We wanted that pitch to sort of resonate and make sense, because that's otherwise by the time you got there you'd be like, well, this place is just fantasy, nobody would ever come here. And that the beauty of the place was also tied into that. It had to be a very attractive proposition, or people who would believe that people would go leave their lives and go to the bottom of the ocean.
I'm sure in some ways you had to convince the team and enroll them in your sort of vision of who this character was going to be and what the setting was going to be. How did that work, Sean? I mean, did Ken come in and say, hey, I've been reading these books, and I think we could sort of...
I believe he just came in one day on a horse and said, Ayn Rand, everybody read The Fountainhead.
Exactly. I bought 30 copies of it.
Yeah, I think,
Here's a 2,000-page book or something.
Yeah.
Go read it.
I mean, really, it was more organic. Like I said, we knew that we had this location, and you struggle to fill it with stories, and you struggle to find meaning of why does this place exist? What's my motivation? And as Ken started to explore Ayn Rand a little more and started talking to us about it, and we were having that conversation, and it's like, oh, this could totally work. Like, this is exciting. Like, this is something that really hasn't been done in a video game before. And if we had flipped it and come up with the idea first before the location, I don't think we would have really been that excited about it. But we had a location, and now we're trying to fill it with that story and